As leadership changes hands at almost every level, the Rock of the Texas House prepares to return a steady hand to the gavel, one-on-one with Speaker Joe Straus. In the final dash to Election Day, the battle on the ground is in full swing. We go behind the lines as the countdown begins. And the quiet crusade drawing new support from unusual corners. Could 2015 be the year supporters of medical marijuana see a breakthrough in Texas? Good evening and welcome to State of Affairs. I'm Mark Wiggins. Thanks for joining us. Well, Election Day is a little more than 2 weeks away, and regardless of the outcome, 2015 will bring big changes. We'll have a new governor, a new lieutenant governor, and on down the list. Each will bring different styles of leadership and different sets of priorities. Only one, the Speaker of the House, will return. And barring the unexpected, he'll be the sole veteran in a leadership position. We sat down for a look ahead at what to expect when he gavels the 84th Texas Legislature into session. Here's San Antonio Republican Joe Straus. Thanks for the time, Mr. Speaker. Last session, the 83rd Texas Legislature, the regular session at least, seemed like from all observers who were there was one of the smoothest and most efficient that they'd seen in a while. What was the key to that?
Well, it was collaboration of the members. We had about 42 new members last session, which really made House leadership buckle down and make sure that our new members were assimilated quickly, that we were all moving the same direction, not necessarily agreeing on every issue, but agreeing that it was time to address some very serious and challenging issues that face a state of 26.5 million people. And I think there was a seriousness of purpose in the last session that I was very proud of. I think the members were proud of it.
So there is an amendment on the statewide ballot in November that would put some more money into transportation funding. How will, whether that passes or not, affect what happens with transportation in the upcoming session?
Proposition 1 that's on the November ballot doesn't really put more money in terms of raising revenue into transportation, but it does provide a boost in transportation funding from existing revenue sources. Mm-hmm. But it also will keep the rainy day fund with a very healthy record, in fact, balance when we come back into session. So it's a positive step forward. It's by no means the answer. How it will impact what we do during the session in terms of transportation is hard to say. The passage of Proposition 1, coupled with what I've announced in this past summer, ending the diversions of the gas tax for purposes other than transportation, those two items together will be a significant boost in transportation funding, still not as much as TxDOT claims it needs. What other steps we might take? One thing I think you can expect, and their conversations are going on in the interim and will continue, and that's the evaluation of whether or not TxDOT is doing as efficient a job with the funds that they have as they should.
It seemed like at the end of session that transportation funding, and I guess maybe to some extent water or education, depending upon who you spoke with, those were some of the issues where folks felt like progress had been made, but maybe there was some more work to be done. Where do you think that work is going to start? Which issues do you think that work is going to start with when the legislature returns?
Well, there's always work to be done. The health of our economy certainly helped us make some serious improvements in the last session, some serious progress. And I mean, I remember the downtime and having to live through, making some painful, difficult decisions. So I don't ever believe we're living in a situation that will continue forever. We'll have our ups and downs. And one of the things that I've been stressing recently is let's look at where oil prices are going. They're starting to slip some. What's the impact on our Texas economy and job outlook for that? So I always want to be cautious and careful when we put our budget together. But we always leave more work to do. Proud of our session last time and these issues that come with growth that looks like it will continue unabated: education, transportation, natural resources.
Are you getting an idea at this point what the revenue picture is going to look like going into the next session? Is it going to be another, I guess you could say, good year in terms of state revenue?
Well, we hope so. I've served as Speaker 3 sessions. There have been surprises on the opening day when the comptroller gives the revised estimate that we work with when we're building the real budget, not just during the interim. And there have been some pretty big bumps that were unanticipated in the past. So I'm conditioned not to get too far ahead on that. But I will say that the Texas economy continues to expand. Things look pretty good.
There were a number of major issues that arose during the interim. One of them was the unaccompanied alien children from South America coming across the border, being smuggled across the border. The other was the Ebola case in Dallas. Of all the things that have happened over the summer, over the interim, what do you think is the one that's most likely to drive the agenda, perhaps in some way, when the legislature returns?
Well, you never know. And one of the good things, one of the best aspects of only meeting once every other year for 140 days is that we resist the temptation to legislate based on today's headlines.
Regardless of what happens this November, there's going to be change up and down at every level of leadership in Texas government. How is that going to change, or how could that potentially change the legislative process when everyone's back?
Well, there's going to be a lot of change around here. From top to bottom, virtually top to bottom in the statewide offices for the first time in a long time. New governor, new lieutenant governor, comptroller, all the way down. And in the Senate, there'd be a lot of new faces. The House looks to be, of course, the election's 3 weeks away, but it looks like it'll be a fairly average year in terms of turnover in the House. We had quite a few retirements and some senior leaders here retiring or running for other offices. But I think the overall turnover is going to look not like the last time with 42 members, probably half that, I would guess. And so the House will be stable. I feel very good that we'll be ready to lead. We'll be ready to tackle the issues that come before us. And in a time of change of leadership, but that also can bring some new ideas and some fresh approaches too.
Are there any lessons that you can take from previous sessions that will kind of guide your approach to the leadership process?
Well, there's always, every day there's something to learn, and certainly every session something to learn. But I feel like the lessons that were learned in the last session, I think certainly were the best lessons to learn, and that's when you bring people together and you collaborate and you include people in the process and respect one another and try to build a positive agenda on issues that really matter most to people in a rapidly growing state, that good things will happen. And so we'll continue to try to keep going in that direction, in a positive direction. And anything we can do that looks nothing like Washington, D.C., we'll do. And I'm very proud of the results, and I think the people of Texas are supporting our work.